they're doing their job right, but then this attitude of might is right, right? Instead of like, I think, how do we de-escalate, right?
Mhm.
So once they de-escalated, once they got it that you cannot continue to just might, but your job as law enforcement includes de-escalating things, and it's like, you know, it's sort of like, if they're supposed to be the grown up, right? Let's just hypothetically say, right? Aren't they supposed to be the grown up if, the rest of us are behaving like kids and we're yelling and screaming our heads off, for whatever reason, right or wrong? You de-escalate, like, you don't like, you know.
On your armor and
Yeah, right. And that
weapons.
just makes people even more.
Mhm.
So that culture of, using power to dominate, as a way to keep the peace, even if we grant that, they're all purely motivated by keeping the peace, they really need to get rid of this culture of, if we intimidate, people will obey. In real numbers, that doesn't work. There's more of us than them, so to say. If they want to turn it into us and them, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
We have a person who comes to one of our Zoom meetings, and she's Iranian by birth. She's been
Uh-huh.
here for 30 years. She's a research scientist, and
Uh-huh.
she
Uh,
was just shaking her head, just like she never thought come to a day where it just reminded her of Iran from her
yeah.
era. You know,
Right.
it's like the way that the police force is just so like that, and she was just praying that it was going to shift back at somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But she
Mm-hmm.
said it was just so reminiscent of how she
Mm-hmm.
grew up 30 years ago.
Right.
So it's
I
like,
mean, we like our beliefs about, how different we are.
yeah,
American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Asheville also. Uh, I think the thing that got them to get it that they have to de-escalate was that picture of the cop in SWAT gear, destroying the water bottles.
Right. That's what I saw.
Yeah, that went viral around the world.
strange.
And this is not war, but even if this was actual war, that's a war crime. Destroying the medic.
Right.
Medical supplies.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, attacking the Red Cross. That's a war crime. Period.
yeah.
And the first statement, the police chief, who is new, we know that the Asheville police history is pretty corrupt, because they were in cahoots with the local mafia. It's the same family that supplied, like, both sides of the criminal business.
Wow.
In fact, I mean, not a laughing matter, but kind of ironic. Uh, when I didn't know this, but the police chief that when I first arrived here in 2003, and he was the police chief. Eventually, he was convicted and put in prison. And last week or something like that, he was in his 80s. And last week or something like that, he died of COVID-19 in the prison.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and some sort of weird, you but yeah. So this guy, this new chief, people seem to think that, you know that the city might have a better future, with this as the chief. But then, of course, then this landed on his watch. And then when he first gave the first statement, it was so ridiculous. It was like, things like, well, we didn't give them permission to set up shop there. Like, yeah, who the hell cares? Then it's like it's on private property, and like then the people who own the place said, well, we gave our permission. And then the most ridiculous thing was like, we regret that we destroyed the supplies. We should have just, if we could redo this, we would just have taken it. And someone responded and said, oh, so now you guys are into the looting business as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just the violence and the looting as well. And and then he ended the statement by saying, in any case, the city's emergency medic service is available. So if you need help, call 911.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Then the second one was no longer a statement. It was a YouTube a day later, and he was basically asking for forgiveness. I think that's when he got it. Like, the mayor is definitely, wanting to do the right thing. The mayor. So the mayor was in tears in some, appearance. So then they completely de-escalated. And then, the protesters de-escalated. And so
Right.
yesterday was the largest gathering. And there were no violence because, as Tai Chi or Aikido or Jiu-Jitsu says, it takes two forces to be violent.
Yeah.
So, whereas protesters are not organized and police is organized, then the burden is on the police to de-escalate.
Mhm. Yeah.
So anyway, preaching to the choir. It's for the guys who are organized to de-escalate. So, yes.
Yeah, the peaceful protest in Little Rock the other day was right next door to a police station. And after they were done, they marched over and I think they kneeled right in front of it and chanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they had some police with them too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard like maybe DC also. The police kind of pulled out or something like that.
Yeah.
Then there was no issue, Like in the background, they say you could see National Guard, but they were very discreet. I mean, I didn't grow up in this country, so I don't understand some of the things until it's explicitly pointed out to me. So when some people pointed out to me and said, yeah, okay, property damage, all of that, guess what? The United States requires everyone to buy insurance. And say, insurance will take care of that. It's just a lot of hassle. Yes, true. I was like, oh, right. I forgot. Yeah, I pay insurance for everything. I pay insurance for my business. I pay insurance for my house. I pay insurance,
I heard somewhere on the radio that it's because cities and police departments have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get sued by these families, insurance companies pay.
Right.
And so they don't, it's not even that they don't go to jail, but they don't even pay the money, when fines
budget remains flush.
Yeah. And so, and so instead of the insurance companies arguing that the police departments need to behave themselves, like they would say to us, if you got to go to the gym, if you're going to keep your health insurance, right? They would penalize us if we were smoking.
Right.
They have gotten legislators to pass laws that absolve the cities
Right.
from prosecution for things like that. And so there is no check.
Well, there's those enemies out there that your friendly police, neighborhood police, is going to protect you from.
Yeah. I think this is one of those other things that this virus is showing us is broken around us, right? It's another, we have broken healthcare, we have broken,
Yeah, yeah. So many things are broken, and so anyway, yeah. So Milarepa in the mountains. Let's look at page 124.
Chapter is that? I'm on Kindle and it doesn't have page numbers.
Oh, okay. It's the later visit to Rakma, chapter 12.
Okay.
Mm. So this is Milarepa encountering a young boy, and so then he gave instructions to the boy, gave him refuge vows, so he was so the boy is 16. So this is like in the section where Milarepa asked him, what is your name? So 121, sorry.
Yeah.
So he said, I am Sanjay Kyap. And how old are you? I'm 16. With that, the Jitsun gave him the transmission for refuge, explained the benefits of going for refuge, and said, from this evening on, do not break your refuge vows. Now go tonight and investigate. Are you who go for refuge, body or mind? Then come back tomorrow morning with your answer. So this is an example of Milarepa's style of teaching and giving instructions, which is not based on the formal study of Buddhist topics and Buddhist vocabulary and so on and so forth, which has its place in the whole big picture, but it doesn't mean that all of us necessarily have to do it that way, mastering all the terms, all the, complicated things. So this is a good example of like Milarepa guiding someone to the essential points. Yeah? So I think it's good, worth looking at. So first thing is he explained to the boy refuge, the importance of taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now, what's even more interesting is that before he even gave the boy these refuge vows, he already gave the boy some instructions on looking at his mind, searching for his mind directly. So earlier on, he already said, look and see if you can tell me what color mind is. Is it red? Is it white? Such like that. Then look to see what kind of shape it has, oblong or round. Then look from your head down to the soles of your feet to see where the mind actually abides. So, so that already happened. We can come back to that, I think. First, we look at here from the point where he said, don't break your refuge vows. And then there again, he then almost go immediately to now that you have the vowels, I want you to look into this, right? Mm, who is it that has gone for refuge, body or mind, right? So then most of us have read so much about Buddhism or other spiritual things, we're like, yeah, it's the mind, hello. uh, so that's also our burden, because we've read so much, we think we know the answer, right? But the way it is for this boy, his lack of knowledge well actually is what's helping him, because he's getting this very real and if somewhat peculiar but real question for him, you know maybe just the first time it occurred to him, oh, I never asked that question. When I say I am going to the market, or I am reading, or I am making offerings, this I, is it the body or is it the mind? Body and mind being understood as the full extent of the possibilities of answering this question. So maybe in the West, we would say body, mind, and spirit, somehow that's common in the way we might think about who I am, body, mind, spirit. But spirit as a third category doesn't exist in Tibet. In the Tibetan way of looking at things, which is based on the Dharma, is basically, if you look at I, you find physical processes, you find mental, emotional processes. And so these are the two. So this boy is asked by Milarepa to look into, when I said, when you took refuge, what is it that took refuge, body or mind? The following morning, the boy returned with this answer. Lama, last night I looked to see whether the one who goes for refuge is body or mind, and I saw that it is neither of the two, he says. I saw that all the parts of my body, from head down to my feet, each have their own nature, their own name. And then I thought, can it be that the one who goes for refuge is included in all of these parts of my body? If the body is separate from the mind, when the body is just a corpse, so in that case, the body can't be the one that goes for refuge. Not only that, but if one takes apart all the pieces of that corpse, they each in turn have their own names. Meaning, if you start taking apart, it goes further down, further down, further down, right? You call a body, then the body is like, oh, it's a torso with 4 limbs. Oh, what's a torso? Well, the torso, there are all these parts. Well, what is a shoulder? Oh, shoulder consists of these bones, these tendons, these, oh, what's a tendon? Oh, then, and so on and so forth, until you basically cannot find anything in that sense of cannot find. And sometimes it's expressed as the unfindability, the not being able to find a self, right, is what's known as not self. Right? The very unfindability, the very uh, uh, the very inability, that no matter how hard you search for to find anything, that is said to be what emptiness is. Not only that, but if one takes apart all the pieces of that corpse, they each in turn have their own names. So then I turned to look and see if it was the mind that goes for refuge. If the mind is given the name, the one who goes for refuge, then it can't also be called mind. Not only that, if a previous mind is called mind, can you then call a later mind the one who goes for refuge? The mind at the time of being the one who goes for refuge then can't be a previous mind or a later mind. Therefore, the present mind and the future mind also have their respective names, if you call both the previous mind and the later mind the one who goes for refuge, then it would never go out of existence. So all of the past and future lives that one takes within the 6 classes of beings could be called the one who goes for refuge. But I don't remember my past lives, and I don't know what future lives I will take. Last year's and yesterday's mind have already ceased, and the mind of tomorrow has not arisen. The present mind also changes in every moment. Lama, you know, please explain to me. So what's going on here is he says, and then when I search for the mind, thinking that, well, maybe it is the mind that takes refuge, which is slightly more reasonable than the body taking refuge. But even that, he says, when I go looking for this mind, trying to find something substantial, trying to find something that, you can go, aha, there you are, you are the one taking refuge. He said, I can't find that either. Neither body nor mind. In some ways, I think we can say that the conclusion that it is neither body nor mind is not a conclusion that we should rush to agree with and to to agree with and to sign up for and say, yep, this is how it is. Why? Well, because I'm a card-carrying Buddhist, and it says, in the footnotes, right? Buddhists do not believe that it is body or it is mind. I think if we do that, then we are depriving ourselves of the power of the investigation, the power of the searching. And there are two primary modes of searching, in the context of Tibetan Buddhism. There is the more formal scholastic searching, which is taught in all these Buddhist philosophical schools, seminaries, the Geshe degree, the Kempo degree, things like that, where they are taught formal categories and then formal ways of investigating. And so they talk about, like, the four reasonings, the four possibilities, as in four possible positions, and then systematically looking at how each of these four positions are untenable, and therefore, the self that we habitually believe to exist, simply cannot exist the way we think they exist. So there are formal ways of doing the analysis. Milarepa's way doesn't go that route. Milarepa takes the approach of kind of one that shepherds, can appreciate, one that you and I can appreciate without learning all the complicated vocabulary, rubrics, and organization systems, and all of that. But to simply kind of ask those questions, not based on how much we have read about Buddhist philosophy, but rather, in my experience. In my experience, when I say mind, my mind, what is it? What is that mind? What is that I that I'm really talking about? What does it feel like? So, like, sometimes with these instructions, you see how they say, like earlier, right? That section that I just briefly looked at, I said we might come back to it, where he says, what is the color? What is the shape? What is the... So again, if we read this with a more intellectual mode of reading, you'll be like, that is just, this is the thing that they say all the time. It's not red, it's not blue. It's like, yeah, I know the mind. how can the mind be red or blue? You know, but that's just a concept that you don't think your mind is red or blue. When you stop, applying these concepts, see if there are days where you actually think your mind is blue or red or polka dot pink. I think we do. Yeah, I think we do. We do think it has a shape, Sometimes it's shaped like a donut, Other times it's shaped like, like right now, it's like shaped like some Greek island. I've been watching this series, the Dorals in Corfu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, ooh, Greek island, right? Ooh, after the pandemic, I'm sure I can get a cheap ticket to go to the Mediterranean. The mind has taken on that shape, The heart has taken on that shape. And habitually, because we don't, because we habitually let it do that, then actually you know, yeah, the mind has a shape. But see, that's the unexamined assumption that we have allowed to just be there. So when Milarepa says, look at your mind, does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Does it have a smell? Right? It's not meant for us to kind of logically say, well, yeah, well, of course not. But it's really to get us to see how easily, what we think and what we feel become our complete reality. And he wants us to see the absurdity of that, the insubstantiality of those states of experiences. Now, not only is it insubstantial and therefore unreliable and therefore, subject to change and subject to disappointment, but the lack of substantiality is in fact also, to look at it from another point of view, makes it possible for all possibilities to temporally manifest and be experienced. And again, once again, if we don't understand the nature of these manifestations, then we get carried away by, oh, how magical is this mind? It's both magical and, limiting. So the more we're able to see then, that is the true seeing of the Buddhas. Not these more visionary experiences of Buddhas appearing and this and that, it's said in Mahamudra, One simple moment of seeing one's own mind, is more meritorious, more powerful than seeing all the idams coming face to face with all the meditation deities and all the idams. Even better than that, even more profound than that, is to be able to see our mind like directly. And so this is what Milarepa is guiding this boy to see. So Milarepa then sings to him, the Guru who has realized the nature of selflessness, I respectfully supplicate with my three gates, meaning body, speech, and mind, so his entire being. To me and all the students to come hereafter, grant your blessings that we too realize the nature of selflessness. By your compassion, may we emerge from the objects of self-clinging. Praying like that, caretaking herder, listen to us. And so he referred to his Lama as the herder. Here, selflessness, right, is not used in the same way as we might use the word in English. Be selfless. That means don't be egotistical. Don't be, fixated on yourself. Here, selflessness is the lack of self, the lack of essence, that lack of intrinsic / independent existence and reality. So then the flip side of that is what? Interdependently arising, dependently arising. Depending on this, that. Depending on that, that. Depending on that, then this. So interdependent arising. And that which is interdependently arising will also, through interdependence, cease. So selflessness here is not talking about altruistic. Yeah? This is a translation issue. Selflessness here is talking about the lack of self, the lack of independent entity. So everything is dependent on many other things. Each of everything is dependent on many things for its coming together. And so many things have to come together for one thing to happen. Then that one thing that happens is extremely unstable and ephemeral. When we don't see that, then we act in ways that are confused. Then, if we act in a confused manner, no choice but, suffering results. The consciousness that clings to an I, if you look, you definitely won't be able to see it. So the unfindability of the self is the result of looking, of searching, of analyzing. Whether the more scholarly, formal way of analyzing, which you can learn, there are many programs offered for Westerners now to learn, various aspects of Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist training. So you can take, a course on that. It's helpful. It helps you kind of see, kind of the clear kind of way in which, things are argued out, Sometimes it's called the approach of the consequentialists. It's the name of a philosophical tradition in Indian Buddhism, which Tibetan Buddhists consider to be the highest expression. Insofar as reality can be expressed in words and in a systematic way, they say the approach of what's known as the consequentialists. The consequentialists who follow the middle way, Prasangika Madhyamaka, the consequentialists that follow the philosophical tradition known as the middle way, Madhyamaka. So the consequentialists, by the way, now I know I'm getting very technical, not very Milarepa, but hopefully it'll help you see, slightly beyond this context, in order to appreciate this context even more. So there's this family known as the middle way, adherents of the middle way tradition. And this specifically refers to the tradition that Nagarjuna kind of started. And then among this, they say there are those who are called the consequentialists and those that are called the autonomists. So the autonomists are those middle way adherents who all things being equal with the consequentialist, where the difference is that the consequentialist will only say, if you believe X, Y, Z, then the consequence of your belief would be A, B, C. And A, B, C is always absurd. So this is how they present their arguments. By simply going along with you and then they take it far enough down the road for you to see your way of thinking, your way of establishing reasonableness is absurd. So they're called consequentialists. They argue by the force of consequence. And an honest consequentialist would also admit to you, sometimes, we force the consequence. I heard one great Gelugpa Lama, Geshe Sopa in Madison, Wisconsin, pass away now, but one of the luminaries of Tibetan Buddhism in the West. He admitted to his students, he said, yeah, sometimes consequentialists really force the consequence. So it's not as consequential, The autonomous are those who will argue from making certain claims about the truth, about reality. Whereas the consequentialists are like, no, we do not debate by forwarding our own position because we have no position, they say. And in fact, they say, having any position at all is a basis for suffering to aggregate. And therefore, we don't have any positions. Whereas the autonomists will say, no, the Buddha reasonably gave positions, which is valid and sound positions. And so it is acceptable to argue from certain autonomous truths and reality, which they say, for example, to say that things lack inherent existence, that is an autonomous statement that can be made, because that is how things are. So they say we should apply reasoning not just through the consequentialist way, but also when appropriate, establish or accept, what is. So the autonomous in that sense. Anyway, the consequentialist and the autonomous. Luckily, Milarepa says, don't worry about all that if you don't understand. He says, you look, you investigate. First of all, don't be so smug and think. Maybe he didn't say to any of these people, because the people that he meets, they are very opinionated. They are very clear, very sure about themselves, but their sense of themselves and everything has very different from our, generally over-educated sense of ourselves. So if Milarepa was alive today, he would say to us, don't be so smug. Don't think you know so much, all the stuff that you know about Buddhism, this is all just words. Including if you think, I don't think the mind has a shape. It's like, yeah, that's what you think. You think you don't think that mind has a shape. But you do think mind has a shape. Shaped like a donut. It's a shape, Shaped like this, shaped like that. It says, look at that. Right? this consciousness that clings to an eye, if you look, you definitely won't be able to see it. Look as in, where is this eye, you know? Can we say the eye is the sum total of both body and mind? Is this how our sense of I turns up? As in, look into it, you know? Like if you look into it, right, your sense of I, is it stable? Is it always the same? Yeah, so you see how it's bopping and bleeping, right? Sometimes strong, sometimes weak. Now, why do we go from there into thinking, and then therefore that's evidence that we are always there? Some days we are more active than other days. That's how we tend to think. But Milarepa really wants us to see how that's not how it is. We do not have enough evidence to support the thesis that I exist in this way. I'm like this. But when we're stubborn, you know, we'll say that, you know, well, this is how I am. If you don't accept it, then, you know, the highway is that way. We all do that, you know. And it's in those moments, Milarepa says, that's the most crucial moment for you to, when I say analyze, I'm talking about analyze that. So Milarepa is not so interested in, you know, okay, now class, here are the consequentialists, here are the autonomists. The consequentialists would argue using the 7 points. The autonomists would argue their point using the 7 points plus 2 more points.
Yeah.
Milarepa doesn't go that way. And actually, the boy's earlier explanation of his experience when Milarepa asked him to look at your mind, you know, and tell me. Tomorrow, come back and tell me. It's actually very good. So let's look at that one. Now going backwards, a little bit above this section. The boy said, you know, it moves and it is clear and luminous. This is when Milarepa says, look at your mind. Is it oblong? Is it round? Is it red? Is it white? Right? And said it moves. You know, the mind moves. And it's clear and luminous, meaning it can imagine so clearly. It's radiant, he says. So here, clear and luminous, it's not, you know, it's not talking about some sort of mystical experience of like, whoa, you know. And this is just, you can say it's a Tibetan expression that you know, that the mind knows. It has a power to cognize, that the mind has the power of cognition, right? So it's clear and luminous. It is not something I can identify though. I couldn't find any color or shape that it has. So that means he tried looking for it, you know. He didn't, you know, do what we would do, you know, if a lama tells us, you know, or somebody tells us, you know, look carefully and see, is your mind red or white? You're like, how can they have any color? But here the boy, you know, really looked to see, does it have a color? One time our coordinator and the person doing meditation for kids, so we have that course available. I don't know if you guys are doing any right now, but this is a home course that you do on your own with your kids, a series of 7. And if you sign up, then every Saturday you get the link. And if you don't open that link, then it pauses until you have opened it. Then the next Saturday, the next link is sent. So if you look at the Urban Dharma Facebook page, um, I mean, EBS, feel free to use it. It's we are very happy if you are going to have a use for it. Maybe somebody tell Betsy.
Yeah, which I will tell her. They are trying to,
Right.
it's going slowly, not obviously because of the pandemic, but they still
Right.
are meeting with parents every Saturday afternoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So feel
would be
free to
very
use ours however you all use it, whether you use it as a way to broadcast from you or use it as in give it to others and say, hey, y'all
Right.
can sign up for this. There's no cost or anything. And Elise is our coordinator, and
Okay.
she teaches preschool. She's very good. She recorded this actually for her school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's non-religious. It's a secular humanist, with Buddhist stories and kind of Jataka tales and meditation. And so anyway, she's one. She came. One time she after we did some of this meditation. She said she came to me and she said, "Oh, I tried that. It backfired." I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, yeah, I heard what you say and I meditated and I liked it. So then I thought I would do it with my kids. So I said, so does their mind have a color? And she was like, immediately all the hands went up and I said, yes, pink, no, purple, no. And it's just like, okay, this is not going to work. Because her preschool kids were very sure it's pink. Another one, it's purple. Looks like a chinchilla. It's like, okay. That just backfired. She said, yeah, it doesn't work with them. She said, we have to think of another way to get them to analyze, Here it says, so I couldn't find any color or shape that it has. Together with the eye, it can see. With the ears, it can hear. Together with the nose, it smells. With the tongue, it tastes. With the feet, it walks. But it's a total mishmash. If we're honest about it, that's what we will say too. But it's a total mishmash. A complete disaster. He said, this present body is just like the servant of the mind. When the body is happy, the mind uses it until it degenerates and becomes old. Then when it has completely deteriorated the body, the mind just throws it out like a stone used to wipe your behind. Like toilet paper, basically. People in Tibet use stone. And we complain about toilet paper being not soft enough. These were tough people, stone. Like a stone used to wipe your behind. And the mind goes on its way just like a spoiled little kid. If you really think about it, the way our mind tortures our body, like a spoiled brat. For example, overeating. It's not a problem of the body, it's a problem of the mind. I said, there's no better place to witness the feat of mind over matter than to go to a Chinese super buffet. I don't know if you have those in Little Rock, Oh yeah. That's like, mind over matter. Like most people would think, wait, what do you mean? Wait, it's the opposite. Don't you mean that? It's like, no, it's mind over matter. It's all the mind is not satisfied. I'll be the first to tell you, that's always my experience. Yeah. Going to a Chinese super buffet, the idea of going is always better than the result of having gone. Halfway through, eating in there, you're like, why did I do this? Because the mind is not satisfied. Because the mind says, there are 72 different things here. I only got to eat 14. Maybe, I'm not satisfied because, the 15th thing that I eat, that would have been it. So because the mind is not satisfied, it will do whatever it wants, completely ignoring the body. So meanwhile, the body is like, stop, this is abuse. Never mind. The mind says, no. I'm the boss. You are the servant. You do what I say, right? So the boy says, this is what's going on. Yeah? And the mind goes on its way just like a spoiled little kid. Then when the body tries to get retribution on the mind can't just stay there, relaxed at ease. Yeah, so when the body starts acting up, the mind, who is supposed to be the boss, is now freaked out. Yeah, what kind of boss, right? So it's like our, law enforcement, now freaks out, right? And then it will throw everything at it. Because of the suffering that ensues, the body tramples on it like a herd of animals in order to stop it. And so the body now, right, retaliate against the mind. When the body falls asleep at night, the mind goes everywhere just as it pleases. The body gives the mind such a hard time. When the body tries to take ownership of the mind, things just get worse and worse. So the body and mind is at war with each other. And then we say, well, that's me. Me? You? So what kind of autonomy do you have? No autonomy whatsoever. Then can you say, this is my body and mind? Or can you even say, this is who I am, when there's absolutely no degree of any kind of control? So this is the way Milarepa style of getting us to see. Yeah? What is this I? What is it the body? Is it the mind? Questions? Comments?
The only comment I have is, in order for me to stay sane during coronavirus, is I've been walking, at least 4 miles a day.
Oh, wow.
Maybe like 2 miles in the morning, 2 miles in the afternoon. And then because it got so hot, I've been walking with my sister. We said, okay, well, let's just do it early in the morning. And then, we can just call the rest of the day off. So we tried to walk 4 miles in the morning. Right. And my sciatica nerve was screaming at me. And I've been trying to ignore it and go ahead and walk because I need it for my sanity. I don't know if this is relevant or not, but this is how I was able to relate to what you were saying is, but this morning it was just screaming. It just hurt to even bend down to stand up. It was just screaming. I broke down and took 2 ibuprofen. But I said to my sister, I said, I can't walk today. My body's telling me you better pay attention.
So sometimes the mind is looking for ease. Relief. And so
like that walk helps my mind, but it wasn't helping my body.
Right. So it's so fragile, the way we're constituted, really.
And then you got to sit home and you got to think, okay, what do I do to entertain myself, or how do I not? And I'm having like sugar cravings. My sweet tooth is screaming at me. So it's very interesting what you're saying. I can relate so much to what you're saying.
Get a tub of butter and eat.
Yeah, or I will cave into my craving and have some ice cream, and it tastes so good while I'm eating it. But then after I eat it, I suffer the consequences.
My approach is to feed the craving fat.
Oh, okay.
Instead of sugar.
Like maybe an avocado, that'd be a little bit healthier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, avocado,
cheese.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, butter, I think it's healthy. So, but we won't get into that. Maybe ghee if lactose is not agreeable to the system. Then clarified butter has no lactose.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I may try that.
Those are the good fats, they say that the body, when it has a sugar craving, is basically craving for energy. But to give it sugar is like, overloading it. But sugar is cheap, and sugar turns up everywhere.
And it's addictive.
Yeah, so the FDA in the 50s got sold out to the sugar industry, the sugar lobbyists. So anyway, yeah, body and mind is fragile,
This is helpful and kind of opens some doors, I think. I have been, since the Thursday night class, during that class, I really realized that I needed to revisit, that I want to revisit my understanding of what it means to take refuge.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've just kind of done it for so many years that I've gotten older. I have deeper meanings of understandings of things. And so this was really good just to, I go for refuge. Okay, this whole time today, okay, well, let's just take that first word, I. Right. And let's look at that for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's helpful because that puts it, oh, maybe that's what I need to look at first when I think about going to refuge. Who is going?
Right. Yeah, Milarepa style,
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's so practical, and I do appreciate both, kind of a scholastic approach, but also this, I think of this approach is very much like, here's some teaching, now class, let's go in the lab and see how it works. Mm-hmm. And, you go in your mind and you get quiet and you look and
muck around.
Muck around, yeah.
As they say, muck around.
and I'm kind of getting more patient as I get older with not having to find an answer real quick.
Good, because the unfindability is the emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mucking around that is doing the work of purifying. It's not the actually finding anything that actually delivers, us to. So it's the mucking around that disabuses us of our confusions. It's the or more technically accurate or technically precise way. It's the analysis, right? But you could think of it as mucking around.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Lai, does it also depend though on the example of, like, how Milarepa always cites Marpa as, that until we sort of, anyway, we need to see somebody who can show us what this looks like. It seems to me. And if we look around, we can see those people, we can see them.
Yes.
But it's just you know, we could hunt all day for this stuff if we hadn't actually experienced somebody who, you know, you know. Um, so it seems that it's an essential part of it, and they often talk about that in this path, that there's got to be that transmission,
Yeah, yes,
right?
yes, of course. But how early and how late, I think it it I I I agree with that, except I don't say that much because I find that often becomes a stumbling block for a lot of people. They think that, oh, it's so good to have that. I don't have that. Oh, poor me.
Right.
Here, the pointing out instructions are here, you know.
Right. And so
Uh,
we could look at Milarepa's life, even though we've never met
oh
him.
yeah, yeah. Milarepa says, if you look at my life, if you pray to me,
Yeah.
I will be your lama. So I'm doing a course now with the South Americans on Milarepa.
Mhm.
And there I said, like, yeah, it'd be wonderful if you actually met someone. And I said, even if you meet someone, if the conditions are not there, you'll never meet someone, right? I mean, there were people who ignored Shakyamuni, even when they were alive during his time and, walking around. And they're like, yeah, I don't know that guy. Who knows? Right? So, so then there's that. So, and in Milarepa's life, right? Constantly people are like, God, you beggars again? Like, come on, like, go get a job. Even back then, they're like, go get a job. Like, why are you always asking for free food? um, so I was saying to them, I said, like, so if you have, great, but if you don't, you know what Milarepa says, he says it, he says, if you have devotion in me and you read about me and you receive these teachings, you are able to see. You will be able to see. If you really work on it, it comes because Milarepa's all-knowing wisdom mind is present.
Mhm.
Sometimes when we talk about Buddha's Bodhisattva, sometimes when we talk about Milarepa or Guru Rinpoche, sometimes I think, especially in the West, where we want to make everything very reasonable, they sound like, Jungian archetypes or symbols, like these are symbols.
Mhm.
So then all of these prayers and these pujas we do become like exotic placebo effect.
Mhm.
I myself have kind of found that, maybe I said it that way, I didn't use those words, but I think that's how it sounded to people. And for a while, I think some people actually like that. Oh yeah, it's just a fancy placebo effect. But actually, from a Dharma point of view, we say, no, 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 wait, we're not saying that.
Mhm.
We're saying that Milarepa's omniscient mind, so Milarepa's confused mind was destroyed, finished. And simultaneously, when the confusion mind was destroyed, the omniscient mind was kind of uncovered, developed, revealed, however you want to phrase it. And it's present. And in fact, it says that this wisdom mind pervades everywhere. So that if we direct our devotion to him or to Guru Rinpoche or to Buddha Shakyamuni,
Mhm.
it comes through.
Mhm.
It's like tuning our radio, to the right frequency. Then you hear loud and clear. So you get direct pointing out from Milarepa. Shangu Rinpoche talks about this, in Trungpa Rinpoche, you know, earlier when he was traveling, he gave a lot of Mahamudra teachings in Canada, in the US. And these transcripts have been published into books. And you read, he says, you know, like, yeah, no, this right now, if you're reading this, this can serve as you're pointing out, you know.
Mhm.
Now, of course, you know, maybe if you take him aside and say, but is there another like pointing out face to face? Maybe he will say, yeah, you need that. But then it doesn't matter. That will come when it comes.
Yeah.
Now you can see again. So devotion to Milarepa. I said to the group that I'm teaching, I say, you know, so we do Milarepa Guru Yoga so that we have devotion to him. And his wisdom mind is not placebo. His wisdom mind is actually, will come through. So that, you know, it's very powerful.
So there was a thing that Chogyam Trungpa taught us, his Vajrayana students, about a way to look at the world where you're always looking for evidence of the guru's mind.
Yes, yeah.
So that it's like, he called it ordinary magic, or also Tamalgi Shepa. And you were just supposed to walk around all day long, and everything that you saw, sort of imagine, what if that's Milarepa speaking to me right this minute, or showing me, you know, what his mind looks like. And so but I find it, you know, so I do that, and I think about, like, with the times we're in right now, you see people acting like bodhisattvas. If you look for it, you know, you see that kind of like, it's there.
So appearances as guru, text as guru, you know, humans as guru.
Humans as guru, yeah.
Right. So I think in part is because of like the conditions of education and literacy in Tibet. So human as gurus have been so strongly emphasized. In part has to do with also literacy,
right?
Therefore access to the all-important texts, you know, where the words of the Buddha. I mean literally, right? If you don't know how to read, and then there's no Amazon.com, there's no internet, even to obtain, right, a text,
right,
it's hard.
Right.
I mean, people actually fought over texts. Like great masters, even there are records of them, like, you know, fighting over texts, you know, because it's so precious, right? So especially in that context, guru as human was absolutely important.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not important now that we are so smart, but I am saying that why it emphasized so much in Tibetan material, or for a lot of this material is like back in the day, that is almost, you could say, a no choice. You know? Without a choice, if you don't have that person, you have no access to the Dharma.
Right.
Because without being instructed in that way, yeah, it's almost impossible by just simply, you know, staring out your window and going, oh, that is impermanent. You know?
Yeah.
Not impossible, but almost impossible. Yeah. So the human guru. So I've been talking about this to other groups. I've been teaching in the Gongchik. I said, so the human guru, if we relate right with this person and all the conditions that are there, the conditions that the teacher need to have, the conditions that the students need to have, when those two meet, and if you're relying on the human guru right, then the human guru is pointing you towards the text as guru or teachings as guru. Right? If you don't want to say text, you can say teachings as guru. And if you're relating to the teachings as guru, right? Where do the teachings point you to? Your own mind as guru. And so that's a good way for you to see, you know,
Yes.
right? Am I relating, you know, to, let's say you said, oh, I have found the perfect guru. Okay, now ask yourself, in relating to this person, in relating to this guru, are you being directed to the teachings continuously? If you are, good. That means it's working. That means you're not wasting his time or her time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then you want to know whether you're relating to the teachings as guru in the right way, or are these teachings, are these words, are these texts giving you another samsara to build? You know, you want to know? Well, are these words, are these teachings directing you, pointing you to your own mind? And part of your own mind is the experiences that you encounter on a day-to-day basis, moment to moment.
Mhm.
Then appearances become guru. But appearances itself isn't per se the guru.
Yeah.
But appearances recognized as guru becomes guru.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting close,
Yeah.
right? But I want to quickly just read, maybe we don't have time to talk, you know. He gives this instruction here. When the boy said, you know, where we stop, you know, like I don't see my past life, future life, I have no idea. So then Milarepa sings this song for him. First is, the guru who has realized the nature of selflessness, I respectfully supplicate with my three gates. To me and all the students to come hereafter, grant your blessings that we too realize the nature of selflessness. By your compassion, may we emerge from the object of self-clinging. Praying like that, caretaking herder, please listen to this. He told the boy. This consciousness that clings to an I, if you look, you definitely won't be able to see it. But the point is, you have to look in order to be convinced that you will not find anything that qualifies to be the I that you habitually think is there. By the power of meditating on Mahamudra, you'll see by not seeing anything at all. See, by not seeing anything at all, you will finally see.
Mhm.
Meaning by seeing that there's no thing that you can say, ah, there you go. That's the I. There you go. I found it, you know. Then, in the meditation of Mahamudra, you need the ground, which is faith, devotion, and resolve. Faith like conviction. Devotion is like continuously, right? And resolve. On the path, please know the causality of samsara. Meaning, right? Cause and effect. Be very clear about that when you're on the path. Then to actualize the final fruition, you'll need the Guru's Abhisheka, transmission, and Upadesha. This is like the empowerment, oral transmission, and instructions, pith instructions. To be a suitable vessel for those, one needs to have the accumulation of merit and maintain resolve through both pleasure and pain. Good days, bad days. Your resolve to wake up has to be maintained. Persevering even in the face of death. Can you practice like this, my dear young son? In this way, you know, like I don't think we need to be rigid about it, but it's interesting to see how the approach that he's taking with this boy, other places he takes a different approach. To me, it shows, you know, this is not like a system. You know? Sometimes the lamrim, you know, stages of the path makes us think that you have to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
I think my colleagues, you know, my Tibetan colleagues, much more traditional in their way of looking at things, will insist you have to do it this way. You have to do it. I'm not convinced because it's very clear when you look at all these examples. Yeah? There are so many ways to enter. Here, he gave this boy entering through Mahamudra first, and then only, right? The guru and the empowerment and all of that. He gave the boy mind instructions. Even before refuge, he gave the boy. He kind of understood, oh, this boy will be his interest, his resolve will be perked if I get him to ask. But who is it? Who is it that took refuge? What is it that took refuge? Who is this I? Yeah. Then if so, if you can practice like this, then you have karmic propensity. If not, there's no need to explain any further. Now you said, okay, forget about it. If not, he's not interested in gathering disciples. It's not like he doesn't care. He does, but he also understands, it cannot be forced, then forget about it, just go on doing whatever you've been doing. Again, you should carefully think this over. If you can't find this I that you cling to, then that in itself is the selflessness of persons. Now, if you want to realize the selflessness of phenomena, then follow me for the next 12 years. If you do that, you'll come to understand mind. My dear boy, work with mind like that. So of the two types of selflessness of person, relatively easier. Because phenomena is much more subtle. Yeah, and you say, for that, follow me for 12 years. The proverbial 12 years. They love 12 years. Like it's like one cycle, of the zodiac. So we should end here today. I don't know if you all see things in the Facebook, but I have just announced that we have a continuing series for the month of Sakadawa. Every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the next 2 weeks. My time from 9 to 10, we have compassion meditation of Avalokiteshvara, a sadhana practice, together on Zoom. So you can register for that so that you get the Zoom credentials and the Zoom credentials as well as the practice text. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday of next week. The following week, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday instead of Saturday. So 6 sessions. So if you're interested, it's 1 hour each of those mornings. Do join us. You can join us on Zoom, or you can just lurk around on Facebook because we will also live stream there.
Thank you. Thank you for offering that.
Yeah, sure.
We've been heavy in discussion on compassion lately, so.
Yes. So, yeah. It's kind of hot outside, but it's good. I'm off to go harvest more berries.
Ooh.
Oh, yes. Do you have service berries in Arkansas?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Melissa is like, what?
It's a service berry.
Pink, right? Are they pink or something sort of purplish?
Yeah, pink, reddish, black.
Yeah. I think we call them beauty berries here.
Oh, really? Well, they're called service berries, as in service, or sarvis, S-A-R-V-I-S. They're also called June berries because, at least in this part, June is when they are ready to be plucked. And apparently they are called service, service. I just heard recently, because for the north, when these berries are ready, the ground is ready and soft enough to be dug to bury the dead.
Oh, wow.
So time for services.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
In a different direction than I thought it was.
Oh yes. So they look like blueberries. But my godson, one of them, he was like, yeah, it's a pathetic attempt to masquerade itself as a blueberry. He doesn't like serviceberry. But it's like it looks like a blueberry and it tastes like a cross between a blueberry and a cherry.
Ooh, yeah.
So it has like that amaretto, like taste,
Mhm.
but it's sweet and slightly acidic like blueberries. I've been drawing on it.
We were looking for bird-friendly bushes and stuff
Oh,
for our garden, and
uh-huh.
so that's why I've come across that one.
Ah, okay.
Birds like
Yeah,
them
yeah.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
So each day now I have been harvesting like 3 pounds at least.
Wow. Are they growing wild or in someone's garden?
The city planted a lot along the roads and everything. It's part of the Edible Asheville project. Yeah.
Edible ash.
So sometimes you have to kind of see like, wait, is this private? Or is this public?
Mhm.
But even private, I think as long as you're not stomping through people's yards, most people don't even know, that it's edible.
Yeah.
When I used to live in Seattle, I would regularly see people gathering blackberries just off the side of the road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, foraging. Okay, ta-ta.
Thank you so much.
Well,
See you next time.
see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.